broadcast today is about age discrimination. My name is Alan Crone. I'm the managing member and founding partner of the Crone Law Firm. We're an employment law firm here in Memphis, Tennessee, and we represent employees, executives, and entrepreneurs in employment-related disputes. And basically, that's any dispute that would affect your ability to make money or earn a living. Everything from traditional wrongful termination kinds of cases to business divorces or disputes between business partners, or even commercial disputes between two businesses. So we're here today to talk about age discrimination. And, as the baby boomer generation gets older, this is an area of the law that is coming more and more into play and becoming more and more important. And it's certainly a category of case that we see frequently here at the firm, and our attorneys handle a number of age discrimination cases. So we thought it would be a good time to talk about it for a few minutes, and hopefully we can help some folks who may have some questions about whether or not they're the victims of age discrimination, or if they're concerned, they're business owners and they're concerned about committing age discrimination and ways to make sure they comply with the law. So as always, we'll go through, we've got 5 or 6 questions that have been submitted that we are frequently asked, and we'll try to answer those questions for you today. First is basically, what is age discrimination? Age discrimination is when an employer favors or disfavors somebody because of their age, either in hiring, promoting, or a termination, or any other adverse employment action. This can manifest itself in favoring older workers, which is actually legal under the Act. If you favor hiring older workers, that a younger worker doesn't have an age discrimination claim. But if someone discriminates because of someone's age, then that is age discrimination. And we've seen cases involving hiring, where an employer has said, I'm not going to hire anyone over a certain age. But it most frequently comes about in termination, when a worker gets to be a certain age and companies start to look to lower the age profile of their workforce. The next question is, how old do I have to be protected? Well, it's sort of a sliding scale, but the minimum age is 40. So anyone 40 years and over is protected by the Age Discrimination in Employment Act and the Older Workers Benefit Act. Those are the two federal acts. Tennessee state law also has a provision against age discrimination, the Tennessee Human Rights Act. But it's not necessarily a finite thing. In other words, if you're 41, you're protected by the act. But if you're terminated and then someone who's 39 is hired, that may not be enough of a disparity in age to qualify as age discrimination. So typically, we're looking for cases that where the worker is 50 years or older and their replacement is in their 20s or 30s. What laws protect me from age discrimination? Well, we've talked about that a little bit, but the primary one is the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, or the ADEA. That's the federal statute, and you are covered under that if your employer has 20 or more employees. The Tennessee Human Rights Act, which also protects older workers, there the threshold is much lower. The employer only has to have 8 employees to be covered by that act. And so sometimes the number of employees becomes an issue in the litigation. How many employees does the company have? Do you count the owners and that sort of thing? But if you've got most companies have well over 20 employees, age discrimination is prohibited. And so you've got protection under both of those acts, both at the state and federal level. What are the warning signs of age discrimination? It's a great question, and there are lots of them, but probably one of the biggest for me is when all of a sudden the worker's performance just isn't good enough. It's been good for years, and the production hasn't changed in any way, and all of a sudden the worker is getting mixed messages about their performance, and the indications of how to improve the performance are subjective rather than objective. You can also, sometimes there are comments that are made, inquiring about retirement plans, or asking for fresh ideas, or using other code words for younger workers like new blood, or we need a new way of thinking. Anytime the word new comes up, that kind of raises my antenna a little bit. It doesn't mean that an older worker can't be innovative, can't be new thinking and that sort of thing. But those are usually code words for we would like to have a fresher look to the organization is another one, which might be code for age discrimination. Many of my clients who end up asserting an age discrimination claim present to me with a performance improvement plan. And many times this performance improvement plan kind of comes out of the blue sky. They had not really had any problems. Now all of a sudden they have this performance improvement plan. And I always look to see how objective are the standards in the plan and how achievable those standards are, those objectives are in the time frame given. And I'll give you an example. If a performance improvement plan says that John has to improve his attitude, but doesn't specify what constitutes a bad attitude or what would constitute a good attitude, that's hard to achieve because it's very, very subjective. On the other criteria, which is objective criteria and giving a specific time frame, I've had clients that are salespeople, for example, and they're told, well, you need to increase your sales by 40% in 30 days. Well, in some instances, that's a perfectly reasonable, rational directive. Increase your sales within 30 days. But if your sales cycle is 60 days or 90 days, it becomes impossible to achieve. And we've had that frequently. Another thing is when the performance improvement plan is given a certain deadline or a certain time frame. Maybe the performance improvement plan is to be revisited in 90 days or 6 months, and all of a sudden, before the expiration of that time period, some adverse employment action happens without anything new arising. That's an indication that the performance improvement plan was a pretext for age discrimination. The next question is, what are the warning signs? Well, we've done that. What should I do if I'm experiencing age discrimination? Well, that's always a tough thing. One of the first things I would do is contact an employment lawyer and pay for a consultation and try to figure out what's going on. Run your set of circumstances by the attorney. Either he or she can evaluate it and let you know whether what you're experiencing is age discrimination or something else, or merits further investigation. Another thing you should do, perhaps in consultation with your lawyer, or if you decide, I really don't want to hire a lawyer right now, then if you believe that there's age discrimination, you should contact HR or your supervisor or whoever your employer has directed you should contact for these sorts of things, and very plainly say, I believe that what is happening to me, and describe whatever it is that is happening to you, is the result of discrimination based on my age. And you need to say it that plainly, based on my age or because of my age, because you want to have a clear record that you have made that complaint, and that your complaint was not just that, well, my supervisor doesn't like me or my new boss doesn't like me, but that they're discriminating against me because of my age. And that will do two things. One is that will hopefully give the employer the basis to investigate your report and correct the behavior. At the same time, it will also protect you, because complaining about age discrimination is protected activity, that if you suffer an adverse reaction because you complained, then you'll be protected. And finally, can I sue my employer if I'm experiencing age discrimination? Well, that's certainly an option towards the end of the road. You always want to try to resolve these things out of court if you can, but you certainly can bring a claim under the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, under the federal system, after having filed an EEOC claim, or you could proceed in Tennessee directly to state court. Many state laws will have similar provisions, and each state may be a little bit different on whether you can go right to court or you have to go through an intermediary administrative agency. But you certainly can sue for age discrimination. One thing I'll say about age discrimination in terms of lawsuits is that in order to have a claim, you have to show that age is the sole motivating factor to the decision. And so that's a very strict standard, and it's one of the higher standards of all of the employment discrimination statutes. Because if the defendant can show any other reason why they were taking the action, even if age was 99% of the reason why they made the decision, but 1% was something else, then many courts will dismiss that. This is something to talk to your lawyer about and explore the various ways that you can prove that the discrimination was based on age and solely on age. But if you're able to make a case, then you can, the elements of your damages are, you can get back pay. In other words, the difference between what you had made before the adverse employment action and what you're making now. Front pay, which is that same measure, but forecasted into the future. And some people, that's the most important part about this, because they really don't think they're going to be able to go back and find another job making what they were making before. And so they want to make sure that their retirement is protected. And that's what makes one of the stakes of these litigations that make it so high for plaintiffs is that they need to be able to secure their retirement. There are also compensatory damages such as anxiety and depression, mental anguish, loss of enjoyment of life, which is a important element of damage in any of these kinds of employment cases, because here in America, what we do is a big part of who we are. And when you're fired, that can have a debilitating effect on people based on their lack of enjoyment of life. And then you can also recover your attorney's fees and expenses for having brought the case. So I hope those answers to those questions help. And if we can be of help to you in an age discrimination case or any case related to employment, please give us a call here at 737-7740. That's 901-737-7740. Or you can visit us on the web at cronelawfirmplc.com. Thank you.